"Try this one," she said. I took the ring from her hand and I slid it onto my finger. Whoa, it's so sparkly. Wow, this is stunning. And the salesperson continued her pitch. Though this is from an old estate, this ring has never been worn. Diamonds last forever, and this setting is a classic setting. And then, registering my tattoos, added, and also quite unique. I've never seen anything like it. I turned to my soon-to-be fiancé. Look, isn't it amazing? It's so different and cool. A second salesperson, a young man, swooped over and grabbed my hand. Oh, wow, this is a nice one. And he turned to his coworker. Have you ever seen anything like this? And then back to my partner and I. Why don't you go outside and look at it in the sunlight? There's nothing better than seeing diamonds in the sun. And he shooed us out the door. And there, in the sunlight, I was bedazzled. As I chattered about the sparkly diamonds, my partner, Joe, calmly, as is his nature, wondered about the ethics of the diamond trade. The wretched conditions for those who mined diamonds, the treatment of employees, corruption in mining companies, slavery, child labor, unjust wages, inflated prices, jewelry corporations that keep diamonds out of circulation, making them seem rare, and of course, the advertisers and the salespeople who pressure people into purchasing diamonds. And it goes on. He said, I'm not comfortable supporting the diamond trade. Had I heard Joe, and had I known him as well as I do now, I would have recognized the ethical quandary he was in. But I didn't. It sparkles, I said. As if tiny, glittering rainbows could cancel out the terrible working conditions of people on the other side of the world. Joe did some more hemming and hawing and ultimately decided that because this particular ring was from an old estate, it was not directly contributing to the diamond trade. He bought the ring for me. A year or so ago, as we were preparing to buy a couple of new rings to honor our relationship and our years together, I found a ring with a row of diamonds. I showed it to Joe. What do you think? I asked. I'm not comfortable contributing to the diamond industry. It is particularly bad. It is notorious for terrible and abusive working conditions. Knowing Joe better, I paused and asked, okay, then why on earth did you buy me a ring before? We had a whole conversation about it. Don't you remember? Nope, I had not remembered, not even a little bit. And now, I had something to think about. You see, Joe, who gave me permission to share this part of his story, had worked then and works again for Equal Exchange, the worker-owned fair trade coffee company that many of our UU congregations buy coffee from. He and his co-workers are deeply attuned to the just and unjust working conditions. The whole point, the mission and purpose of Equal Exchange is supporting better working conditions and returning agency, autonomy, and ultimately power to the workers most impacted by large corporations. In addition to coffee and tea growers and importers, they pay close attention to other industries that rely upon the labor of people working all around the world. This includes chocolate and nut and banana and other agricultural products, and industries that impact and harm the environment, such as mining and the diamond trade. When Joe looked at those diamonds, he saw the lives impacted by those tiny stones. He thought about the toil and the people and the land and the air that it took to get them from there to here, His ethical obligation to uphold and honor the worth and dignity of all people and to respect the lands came first. And he's not even a Unitarian-Universalist. However, I saw breathtaking beauty. Would I choose a sparkly rainbow-making diamonds over the abuse of people whose lives have worth and dignity? The question that I must now ask myself honestly is, what does Unitarian Universalism teach me about buying diamonds? Do my UU values factor even a little bit into what and how I consume? Do they help me choose where I live, where I travel, what I eat, what car I drive, where I buy books? How do I use my purchasing power to support our UU principles, or not? How do you use your purchasing power to support our values and principles? How do you make ethical decisions? A few years back, The Good Place, a network television show, grappled with some of these questions. I highly recommend it if you have not watched it. It's a little weird in the beginning, but then you get to the good stuff. The show wrestles with what it is to be a good person, a bad person, or a better person, all the while knowing that we are going to die, and what our motivations might be for trying to do and be better. The show explores what goes into our decision-making. In season 3, the main characters discover that there's a point system for getting into the good place. Each action that we make, and the choices that we make either give us points or take away points. However, no one had received enough points to get into the good place in centuries. While trying to sort out this problem, the characters learn about two people named Doug. In 1534, Douglas Winegar of Hawkhurst, England, gave his grandmother a dozen roses for her birthday. He picked them himself and walked them over to her, and she was pleased. For this action, Douglas was awarded 145 points. However, in 2009, Doug Ewing of Skaggsville, Maryland, also gave his grandmother a dozen roses. He lost points because he ordered the roses from his cell phone that had been made in a sweatshop. The flowers were grown with toxic pesticides and picked by exploited migrant workers. The roses were packed in non-biodegradable paper and plastic. The roses were delivered thousands of miles, creating a massive carbon footprint. And then the profits of the flower sale ended up in the pockets of a racist, misogynistic billionaire CEO. After learning about these two Dougs, one of the characters reflects, these days humans think that they are making one choice, but they're actually making dozens of choices that they don't even know that they're making. Every day, the world gets a little more complicated, and being a good person gets harder. Knowing that our lives are complicated and that the choices that we make are interdependent with many other choices and actions which cause harm from time to time, what guides us in our discernment and desire to mitigate the harm that our choices inflict? For many Unitarian Universalists, we might turn to the 7 principles that tie our congregations together. These principles have served our faith well since the 1980s. However, as a living and transforming religious movement, we must not stand still. Our principles are not forever like diamonds. We move and we grow and we transform just as our Universalist forebears did before. Today, Unitarian Universalism is reviewing and reflecting upon the principles. Soon, we may have a different set of principles and values to guide us. Over the past couple of years, the Article 2 Study Commission has pulled ideas from Unitarian Universalist theologies, traditions, and the existing principles and sources of inspiration. These, combined with the results from surveys, discussion circles, feedback, and additional suggestions, have led to the development of a proposed draft for the Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is where the principles are located. The result of all of this hard work includes much of the old language of the 7 principles, but now names 7 common values shared among Unitarian Universalists. Paired with each of these values are covenants and promises we make to each other, all of life, and the planet. These shared values and promises can be used to help us guide ethically based decisions. The values that we share in common are love, interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity. In making decisions about how I use my purchasing power, I turn to the Unitarian Universalist value of interdependence, which in the draft form says, "We honor the interdependent web of all existence. We covenant to cherish Earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships." I would also turn to equity. As Unitarian Universalists, we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Because I value the interdependence of all life, including the planet, and value the equity of all people, I strive not to purchase and consume items or experiences that may negatively impact people, animals, plants, the air, the waters. I do not want to use my money to support industries that are harmful. However, because all of our actions are connected to other actions, there is no way to fully and perfectly avoid all harm. We can only do the best that we can do when we can. We will likely make mistakes and make choices that will cause harm. But we are not bad people for this. Our mistakes do not bar us from the good place. We always have the capacity to learn from our mistakes and try to do better next time. There is ample forgiveness and room to grow within this religious faith. As far as the diamond ring I wanted, after Joe raised his concerns about the diamond trade, I did some research and decided that I too could not purchase a new diamond ring. Though I love the glittering rainbow sparkles, I cannot support the industry at this time. People's lives take precedence over sparkles. However, as I researched diamonds, I also discovered that there is a small and growing market for recycled diamonds. Diamonds that are removed from jewelry that is no longer worn, no longer loved. Some of these diamonds are available to be purchased and set into new jewelry. So though I did not buy a diamond ring this time, I might in the future. A recycled diamond might be a more ethical option someday. And I hope that you all may make choices that either bring in a recycled diamond or guide us through and towards our ethical obligations as Unitarian Universalists. May it be so.